Hello programs, my name is Zephyr and here's my review for Tron Ares. Spoilers ahead. So I just finished watching Ares for a second time and the movie was as kick-ass as I expected, but sometimes the pacing feels like it's sprinting a marathon. The movie's 2 hours long, but it feels like it's always at 100. There's lots of going back and forth resulting in rapid-fire transitions from scene to scene, which is definitely going to be jarring for some people. But getting into the main story and the plot, because my theory about Ares becoming the new Tron is thankfully incorrect. He just wants to be a regular old human, and his journey ends the same way Korra's does, and sets off on a journey of his own to go try and find her. Eve and Dillinger are in a race to find a permanence code, but it turns out that Kevin Flynn's ghost, who's stuck in the original 82 grid, has a bunch of them and just gives one to Ares. Which, by the way, they never explain or elaborate what he's doing there and how he's back in the original grid, and they keep switching back and forth from scenes inside the grid that make it feel like we've missed a lot of the conversation between Flynn and Ares. I've seen some people float the idea that the reason why Flynn exists in the 82 grid is because of a line that he says to Ares when he first meets him. He exists because Ares exists in that very moment, which I do kind of like that theory because it kind of further enforces the fact that Flynn is basically Tron's god. If you go back and watch the previous Tron films, they are not very subtle with the whole religious undertones and the themes. The users are basically gods because they are the creators of these programs, so the programs worship users because they are their gods. And Flynn is regarded as the ultimate god because he created an entire grid of his own. One disappointing thing is that there is little to no legacy in this movie at all. Just name drops and pictures of Sam and Korra, with the only explanation as to why we don't see them being Sam stepped down for personal reasons. The grid we see is not Sam's grid. It's Eve's sister's grid, and we only see it for just that one sequence, which arguably happens to be the most badass sequence in the whole movie. But it clearly hints that they want to build some sort of Tron universe, as the ending sets up a potential sequel where Julian Dillinger becomes Stark in his grid, and maybe Ares finds Korra. Speaking of Korra, they did her so dirty, because in one of the photographs that Ares has, along with some coordinates for him to follow, it shows Korra with a receding hairline, implying that she has some type of cancer. Now, they did say that this is not actually Tron 3, this is more of a spin-off despite being marketed as such. So that's why they went on record to say that if this movie does well, then we will continue Sam and Korra's story. And it feels like this movie perfectly sets that up. Maybe the real reason why the permanence code is so important is because it is maybe a fragment of the ISOs that Korra needs in order to survive. She managed to last longer than any other program because she is unique, but she is not permanent. Getting into things I like about this movie, the most obvious being the soundtrack and visuals. This is definitely one of those movies where if you just want to turn off your brain and look at pretty visuals and listen to a kick-ass soundtrack, they got you covered. The designs for everything look really sick, and it's really weird that there's little to no merch for this movie, but Hasbro did just recently acquire the Tron IP, so hopefully they give us some Ares toys and some other goodies for it. But of course, seeing things from the grid interact with the real world is awesome, and really puts into perspective how OP and destructive a program can be if unleashed into the real world. And seeing that this movie's plot was always meant to be an invasion story of programs coming into the real world and interacting with stuff, it's really nice to see that the core of the movie's original vision made it all the way through and stuck to the final product. But moving on to things I didn't really like about the movie, it felt like there wasn't enough time in the grids. We spend the most time in the Dillinger Systems grid, which makes sense, but even then, we're very limited on what we get to see in that grid. It felt like they put all this time and effort into creating these grids, which are meant to be virtual worlds all themselves, but we don't really get to explore them. There are some awkward cutaways that switch back and forth between scenes in the grid and in the real world that leave you feeling like you missed something important. For example, as stated earlier, the conversation between Flynn and Ares. Whenever it switches back to the conversation between Flynn and Ares, it feels like it switched back mid-conversation and you feel like you missed a part of the conversation. There's no real character growth for anyone in this movie. Athena is the only one who gets a little bit of character and they just kill her at the end. But another character that they did incredibly dirty, possibly even dirtier than Korra, is Caius. Cameron Monaghan's character, because he only appears for a total of 5 seconds, only to get nuked by Dillinger. The only reason Chaos exists is just so that way Ares could have a no man left behind moment, and they just end up getting de-rezzed anyway. It feels like Cameron Monaghan's character was supposed to serve a bigger purpose because for some reason they were very secretive about his character. He was not allowed to disclose who he was, making me feel like they were gonna possibly do something big with this character, but nope. They never explain or elaborate on certain things like how Kevin Flynn is in the original Grid, or how both companies figured out that they can digitize things into the real world. Because unless Sam went public and explained how to do it, there's no real explanation as to how they figured it out. And speaking of which, how are they able to create these things with the lasers? If matter cannot be created nor destroyed, then how are they able to create something from nothing? And it seems like not even the movie itself has an answer because they asked this very same question within the movie itself. The only nugget of information, the only inclination that we get about the lasers is that they are particle lasers. But what particles are they shooting out? Like, where do they get the material? Whenever they res something into the real world, it looks like the lasers act as sort of 3D printers, specifically resin-based 3D printers because of all the crazy-ass supports. And whenever something de-reses in the real world, it looks like it falls into a pile of ash, like literal piles of carbon, like pure carbon. So that kinda explains what material they're made out of, but then, again, where does this material come from? At no point in the movie does the big door show up, nor does Jared Leto say it's Tron in time. Which leads me to the final scene of the movie with Ares in Mexico. And Ares is basically just regular Jared Leto. Like, his hair is brown like Jared Leto's. He's basically just Jared Leto, and he's wearing regular clothes. They never explain that at all. Like, how does he get the suit off? Isn't that a part of his body? No mention of it at all. He's just a regular human, I guess. And for some reason, he has Sam Flynn's Ducati that is shown in the background in all of the garage scenes in Legacy. Like, at some point, did he make a pit stop to pick up Sam's old bike? Did he meet Sam? And if he did, are we ever going to get to see that if we get another movie? And my problem with this scene is that it was shown in the final TV spots leading up to this movie's release, which hyped a lot of people up because it felt like Sam was actually going to make an appearance in this movie. But nope, they just did a huge fake out because it's Ares riding Sam's bike for some reason. But my biggest concern was that there was no mention of the title character in this movie at all. There was no Tron in this Tron movie, which leads me to speculate that this truly is in fact just a spin-off movie that they marketed as Tron 3 when in fact it's not. Overall, I still rate this movie a solid 7.5 out of 10. This was one of Jared Leto's better performances, and the movie treats itself as more of a spin-off that celebrates the past while trying to build off of what's already established. Sadly, the two things I feel like this movie has going against it is, one, mainly for the Tron fans, I feel like it would have made people feel a lot more at ease if they simply marketed it as a spin-off rather than just being labeled Tron 3. And number one being, of course, casting Jared Leto as the main role. People always made fun, they were always speculative of Jared Leto as the main role because his recent movies were not that good, but I feel like he was a pretty good casting for this role. However, I feel like the main reason why people are not going to watch this movie is to boycott Jared Leto himself, due to his recent allegations, which is perfectly understandable, and it also serves as the most unfortunate part of this situation. Because the Tron series has always been Disney's black sheep. They always get swept under the rug, and Disney gives next to no love for the Tron series. In fact, if it wasn't for Jared Leto himself pushing for this movie to come out, we would have never gotten another Tron movie, despite the resurgence in Tron's popularity. Yeah, we may have 2 Tron roller coasters, but I think that was as far as Disney would have been willing to go had it not been for Jared pushing for Tron Ares. Now, make no mistake, I am in no way trying to defend Jared Leto for the allegations that he has. All I'm saying is that out of all of his roles that he's been in thus far, this is one of his better castings. And I am somewhat thankful for him reviving this niche franchise that would have pretty much been dead. But the real reason why I am defending Tron Ares so much is because Bruce Boxleitner, Tron himself, said that if this movie does not do well, it could very well kill the franchise permanently. And we will never see anything Tron ever again. Which is why I say, please, whatever views you may have of Jared Leto, put them aside for the sake of this franchise. Because if this movie does not do well, it'll be the last thing that we ever see from this universe. But as I close off the video, I want to hear your thoughts and reviews of the movie down in the comments below. And please, if you have not seen the movie and just want to bash on Jared Leto, don't bother, it's just going to get deleted. But be sure to like and subscribe as it greatly helps out the channel, and as always, thank you for watching.